world title in everyone's imagination. That's the heavyweight champ. You were here. Everyone else was here. But since then, the feeling has been Joshua makes all this money fighting anyway, 30 million pounds, whatever it is. Why should he take 40 or 50 to fight Wilder when he's making against anybody? He can make 30, 40 million pounds, whatever it is.
No fantasy contracts, just reality. You know, bringing our worth to the table and bargaining and negotiating what we're worth and making this fight happen.
Which mentality do you come in with? I ask because when you were slick, to me that looked like a better fighter. But maybe this is the kind of fight where you just need to impose your strength.
Anthony Joshua's calm confidence took center stage as he sat down with Max Kellerman ahead of the highly anticipated Jake Paul showdown, a clash that has electrified both boxing purists and crossover fight fans.
Or a heavyweight champion, you're an undefeated Olympic super heavyweight gold medalist, you're entering your physical prime, and you put 100,000 people in Wembley. So I get your argument. I have the economic clout. He's not coming in as partners. I should get a bigger slice of the pie. Let's have a realistic negotiation.
Joshua didn't just talk strategy. He peeled back the layers of pressure, legacy, and spectacle surrounding this unlikely matchup. With Kellerman pushing for deeper insight, Joshua addressed the critics, the stakes, and the surprising motivations behind stepping into the ring with one of the sport's most polarizing figures.
You beat a guy like that, you're not going to outbox him. If you're waiting on him and he's initiating and he's feinting you into counters and then he's countering.
Kellerman, known for blending sharp technical insight with a touch of theatrical skepticism, immediately zeroed in on the broader narrative surrounding the event. He claimed there's no way around it. This is one of the strangest matchups we've seen in heavyweight boxing. Joshua is a former world champion. Jake Paul is just an internet entertainer. So why is this fight happening? It was a question millions of fans have been asking since the announcement. Joshua's response set the tone for the rest of the conversation.
Jake Paul, does he remind you of any guy that you fought before? Is this a unique situation that you've never come across?
Very unique situation I've never come across, but treating with the same respect that I give all my competition.
So you got the mental fortitude, he's got the mental fortitude. But what's the one best thing that you pride Jake Paul of having that maybe you haven't seen in other competition you faced so far?
From a physical aspect, I couldn't even mention it at the minute. But from a mental aspect, he offered me to fight. Normally, I'm offering people fights. He's told me, come and fight. So he believes in himself.
What does the word legacy mean to you, AJ?
Legacy, what does it mean? This is what I was actually asking someone. What does legacy mean? I don't even know.
When asked what he respects most about Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua responded calmly yet pointedly, he's bringing new eyes to boxing. He acknowledged that Paul, despite his unconventional start and zero amateur background, has taken the deep end. He is throwing himself in the deep end, putting himself under pressure. Joshua said for him, the best thing about Paul is the enthusiasm and the willingness to challenge himself at a high level. Something that, in Joshua's view, helps shine a spotlight on the sport and push boxing into fresh, broader audiences.
Paul versus AJ, as though Jake Paul is the bigger in this equation. Not for me. Maybe for MVP, Nikisa, Jake Paul, but not for me. I've kind of marked it or titled it David versus Goliath just because of the size difference. Like, Jake Paul's a big guy. He is. He's 6'1", 220, probably fights around, the 200-pound mark. AJ is an enormous guy. Like, he's a big, big unit. And I think Jake realized that when they came face to face. I don't know if that's the first time they've ever come that close. I'm sure they've met behind the scenes. But I think there was a realization from Jake Paul, like, fuck, this is a big dude. It's a very, very big dude who isn't coming to play. Like, there was no play with AJ. That was a press conference that almost sounded like AJ versus someone in the top 10, where AJ's taking it seriously. He's answering the questions direct that Ariel's throwing him. There was no, yeah, we're here to kind of fuck around. This is going to be easy. Give me my money. Let me run back to the UK. This was AJ's like, no, we're taking this seriously. And that ain't a good thing for Jake Paul. It isn't. And AJ is that guy anyway. Like, I would never doubt that AJ would take this seriously. But for Jake Paul, I do wonder if realization is kicking in, or maybe he is just that delusional where he doesn't care. I do, and I've been sort of corrected by a few people who maybe know better, but I do think the Americans don't credit or rate AJ. I do think there's a bit of that. I remember when AJ did the rounds prior to the Ruiz fight, and there were a few people like, yeah, you're not that good. This was
The size difference between the two has become a central talking point, and rightly so. What many find striking is that while Jake Paul has always been solid and strong in his own divisions when he stands next to Anthony Joshua, it becomes a genuine David versus Goliath moment. Joshua doesn't just tower over Paul. His build speaks of years spent training as a heavyweight, and the visual contrast when they're side by side is almost shocking. Even if Paul has added muscle and weight, he still doesn't match the natural size or presence of someone accustomed to battling other heavyweights.
Will there be a limit for Joshua?
So there's a lot of discussion around the weight. Joshua fought Usyk twice. Both of those times, Usyk was 221 pounds. Joshua was 240 to 245. When Jake fought Mike Tyson last year, 227 pounds. I expect Jake will come in anywhere between 225 and 230, and Anthony Joshua has a weight limit of 245 pounds.
There will be those, as you're aware, that will look at it and criticise this fight. There already have been, haven't there? They'll say it's a real mismatch. What would you say to them? Are we going to be watching sport at its purest?
I would say it's much less of a mismatch than what you saw with AJ and Francis Ngannou, who a massive man, but relatively no boxing experience. I would say it's much less of a mismatch than AJ's 9th or 10th fight against guys who've been knocked out 20 to 25 times. Given AJ's pedigree, Jake is built for this. Jake is built for the big moments. So do I think it's dangerous for Jake Paul? Absolutely. Do I think it's also dangerous for Anthony Joshua?
Nick Badarian, CEO of Most Valuable Promotions, the promotional outfit behind Jake Paul, told Sky Sports that the December 19th fight against Anthony Joshua is being positioned as a massive global-level event. Badarian acknowledged that while Joshua undeniably carries far greater experience, Paul's delusional confidence could turn out to be the intangible X factor that makes this clash unpredictable. He also revealed that the fight was fast-tracked. Although the original plan was for a 2026 meeting, Paul insisted on accelerating things and negotiations were compressed to make the bout happen now.
Anthony Joshua is Olympic champion. First. Jack Paul is, sportsman, YouTuber, showman. Rolls Royce, Fiat. Listen, it's true. I'm not
Oh my God.
I have nothing better in mind.
Yeah. It's just true. It's business, more money. Only this.
So we need to pray for Jake Paul.
Yes. I will pray Jake Paul because I want fight with Jake Paul in octagon.
Do you think that Joshua should be fighting Tyson Fury next year?
I want this fight. Yeah, I fan.
Alexander Usyk has made it clear that when it comes to Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul, he sees the contest as hopelessly one-sided. Usyk described Joshua as a Rolls-Royce and Paul as a Fiat, implying there simply isn't a realistic comparison between a well-seasoned heavyweight and an influencer-turned-boxer. According to Usyk, the gap isn't just in fame or hype. It's in fundamentals, experience, and physical readiness. He believes Paul risks danger stepping into the ring with Joshua given how drastically different their boxing pedigrees are.
Age difference, we've got 28 years old compared to 36 years old. So I guess the advantage there goes a little bit towards Jake Paul. 28-year-old is better than a 36-year-old. But that being said, we've got talking about experience and everything else. What comes with being 36 years old at Anthony Joshua's level. And then, like I mentioned, the heavyweights kind of seem to prime a little bit older. Now, come down to the height and the weight. This is the big one. 6'1" versus 6'6". 200 pounds versus 252 pounds. We got a 252 pounder in Anthony Joshua. The reach advantage is a lot, which we would expect. Amateur fights, we can see that Jake's only had one, where AJ's had 43, but 43 of them are including at the highest level, Olympic level. And yes, he won the Olympic bloody gold medal, if I don't need to remind you. Then the pro record, Jake Paul has had 13 fights, lost 1. AJ has had 28 fights and he's lost 4 with 25 KOs. And the one person that Jake Paul lost to was Tommy Fury. Now, can we compare Tommy Fury with Anthony Joshua? Not at all. It's like night and day. So now I'm going to talk about the rules of this fight, and I'll give you my prediction, which is going to shock a lot of people after this. So, what are the rules? The bout will take place at a heavyweight, obviously. It's going to be 8 3-minute rounds. You might think, well, that's better for Jake Paul, and I'm thinking, not really. It's better for Anthony Joshua because he's just going to go all out for them 8 3-minute rounds. And imagine that, Anthony Joshua blasting at you, 6'6", whatever he is, 250 pounds, throwing big bombs at you. Anyway, both fighters will be using 10-ounce gloves for the duration of the contest. Why have they got that on there? It says both fighters will be wearing 10-ounce gloves for the duration of the contest. What do you expect? Them to take them off halfway through and switch them to 12s? But I guess these days, anything happens in boxing, right? The boys will follow similar rules to Jake Paul and Mike Tyson in November, but that fight was 8 2-minute rounds and 14-ounce gloves. Not similar if it's smaller gloves and 2-minute rounds. Who wrote this for DAZN? It marks the first time Joshua will have contested less than 10 rounds since...
Tony Jeff, an Olympic boxer, gave a different angle on why Jake Paul should be taken seriously. He said Jake Paul has every resource a fighter could ask for. He can afford elite trainers, world-class conditioning coaches, sports psychologists, nutritionists, and the best sparring partners. Because Jake has money, he can build a perfect training camp without cutting corners. Jeffer also mentioned that Jake knows this is the biggest challenge of his career, so he will prepare harder than ever. On top of that, Jake also has the age advantage. Jeffer reminded everyone that in boxing, youth is one of the biggest advantages anyone can have. Younger fighters recover faster, train harder, and often come in stronger and more energetic.